Jai Jinendra, everyone. Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome you all to today's Oshwal Cooking Club. I'm very pleased to have Nilesh Bhai again with us today. Nilesh Bhai will be presenting a Gujarati feast for us today. Jai Jinendra, everyone. Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome you all to today. Okay, so Nilesh Bhai, if you're ready, we'll be presenting your screen any moment now.
Hi, everybody. Namaste, everybody. A warm welcome on this cold, dark Sunday afternoon. Thank you, Shailen Bhai, for introducing. So I hope you're all excited and looking forward to the evening today. A few weeks ago, Shailen Bhai had asked me, let's do another cooking show, which was around the time of Diwali. And I thought, let's try and do something very familiar to our home ground, cooking some Gujarati dishes, but probably with a bit of twist to kind of generate slightly different interest. I know I've got a friend called Big John who, when I released the information for this show, said, "Oh, Nilesh, why are you trying to teach Gujarati food to Gujarati ladies?" And I said, actually, we're fortunate to have a number of people watching the show, some Gujaratis, some not Gujaratis. And there's always something new, different that everybody does that gets an opportunity to pick up tips or something to take away. So what I want to do today is I'm going to cook a stuffed masala aubergine curry. I'm using the Slim Jim version of the aubergines. Ideally, I wanted to use the small round baby aubergines, but when I did go to do the shopping, it was not available. So as long as it's of any small size, it is good. If they're too big, it will be difficult to cook them and you might end up slightly raw, so you don't want too big a size. So I'm going to today show the different ways of stuffing aubergine, probably the variation in what we can use. Generally, the most common ones which I've grown up with is having stuffed green peas, or you can have stuffed dana with chana nolot. So today what I have done is used a variety of other ingredients to show a different way of stuffing, and also how to incorporate all that in the gravy itself, so you get a nice masala flavor. So I'm using raw spices, whole ones, which I will roast, which will help to bring it all out. And hopefully by blending it, we will get more natural flavor of the whole thing, rather than just using the powdered stuff. To bulk up the stuffing, I've got coconut, and I've got sesame seeds, and I've got salted peanuts. If you're allergic to any of these, it's quite okay to either avoid using it or use other substitutes. So if you're allergic to peanuts, it's very easy to use cashew nuts. Together with the aubergine curry, I'm also trying to introduce a slightly new concept, not new, but concept that people might be aware or might not be aware, is to use avocados to make the chapati flour batter, probably a more nicer, healthier, and slightly unusual way of putting together the ingredients, and hopefully we end up with slightly more nutrients rather than just using oil to make the batter. So hence the avocado here. Also, it gives a nice olive green color of the broccolis, which again brings just that much more drama in the whole thing in the dish, makes it look slightly different and more presentable. And then many a times, the vegans sometimes miss out on some of the everyday dishes. One of them is being sikand, which generally gets made out of yogurt, a dairy base. You can make it with Greek yogurt, or you can just use ordinary yogurt and try and get the water out. So what I've done today, I'm using ordinary soya yogurt. And what I've done is tried to take the water out of it. So I've tied it in a muslin cloth. I tied this overnight yesterday. You could do it in the morning. You can see I'll show later on as well as I go along. A lot of the waters, I've already taken some out already from here, which has come out. So you've got just nice thick yogurt here, which is what you want to make chicken, because you want that nice creamy texture. So a lot of these things I'm making today are of everyday things that we use, but maybe there's variation and something that might help bring a twist in the whole thing. So I hope that answers Big John's questions about why am I doing this to help the Gujarati community, but it's just another way of presenting the whole meal. So what I'm going to first do is prepare my aubergines. So what I've got here is a bowl of just tap water, which is fairly cold. And I'm going to do deep insertions on the aubergines, making sure it's not going all the way through, enough to be able to put the stuffing inside. And I'm going to put this in cold water. Now, the reason somebody might ask, why did you want to put it in cold water? It just helps to perk up the vegetables, in this case, the aubergine, keep it fresh, and hopefully create some moisture inside, which will help for the seasoning to stick inside. So I'll just cut it through and drop them in the water. These are, you can see the size, these are generally the size. You try and want to have it the same size, and I'm putting in an insertion about 1.5 centimeters down, making sure it doesn't come out the other side, but enough to place the dressing, place the stuffing inside. And finally, we have the last one. Ideally, you want it of very, very similar sizes, which helps. And I'm just going to leave this for a few minutes. And whilst they're soaking in the water, I'm going to start preparing the stuffing mixture, which I'm going to just dry roast the spices. Now, the spices I've used here is coriander seeds, fennel seeds, I've got bay leaf, I've got cumin seeds, mustard seeds, a bit of salt, a bit of black pepper, and turmeric. So I'm just going to roast it. Once you lightly roast it, they need to be just careful. Just need to be careful to make sure that it's not at a high heat, just a very gentle heat. What that will do is start to bring out the flavors within these spices, which will create an absolute brilliant aroma and bring out the flavors in the whole thing. So I'm just going to lightly roast that. To this, I'm going to add the coconut powder, desiccated coconut, and the sesame seeds. To bring a bit of body to the whole thing, I'm using peanuts. These are salted peanuts. So I added salt to it. If you wanted to subtract the salt, that would be okay, just to make sure that it doesn't get too salty. Just lightly roasting it. And by now, if any one of you are cooking alongside me, you will probably start getting to see the feel of this dish with all this excellent, beautiful aromas that's coming through. The coconut roasting, the spices are roasting, and the sesame seeds as well. So it's a lovely feel to the whole dish. So I've got my temperature at lower than medium, and I'm making sure that I'm stirring it well constantly to make sure that nothing is getting burnt, because that will just not be nice otherwise. So besides from this flavorings, I've still also got here amchur powder, which I'll put in the curry base. I've got a bit of salt, a bit of dana jiru, some chili powder, and a tiny bit of sugar as well. Now, I generally use sugar because it helps to bring that depth of flavors out with all the other ingredients. But in this ingredient, if you wanted to take away the sugar, that would be okay, because we're using jaggery. Now, if any of you have looked up the recipe list, ingredient list, you might have spotted that I'm mentioning jaggery, but it was not written on the list. So I apologize for that. And if you can just make a note if you're on your list, if you've got the list printed out. So I'm pretty comfortable with this roasting that I've just done. I'm just going to let it cool for a few more minutes, and then I'm just going to blend it into a fine powder. So I'm just letting the whole thing cool down. And I'm just going to use the same pan and start to make the curry base whilst the mixture is cooling down. Adding a bit of actually, before I make the curry base, I want to roast my aubergines. So I'm going to stuff them and then roast them on the pan to make sure that they're evenly cooked. It will give them that much bit of smoky flavor to the whole thing as well, and making sure that they're sealed from the top, so you're not going to lose any flavor as well. And then they will get further cooked in the curry sauce itself as well. So I'm pretty happy with the temperature of this. So I'm just going to put it in the blender. You can, if you're following this recipe with me at the same time, you can smell all the lovely flavors that are coming through. Excellent flavors. So I've got a lovely mixture here.
Nilesh, is it okay to use plain peanuts?
Plain peanuts is fine as well. Then you would just adjust that much of your salt content to it. So plain would be just fine. What you don't want to use is peanuts with skin on it, because that will just change the whole flavor of the whole dish. So you really don't want to use peanuts with shell. But otherwise, salted or even coated, honey coated, or any other peanuts of that kind would be fine to use. Not a problem at all. So I've got my powder, which you can see, and you're probably wondering of the quantity itself. What we will be doing is using this remainder of this powder to season the curry base as well. So don't worry if you've got too much of it, because it will help. Nothing will get wasted at all. So I've got my aubergines, which I'm happy they've been in the water, and I'm just going to drop the powder in. And you can see the end result, nicely filled inside, and it's gone to as far the cut has been. So it will be flavored all inside, and lovely taste and texture to it as well.
Nilesh, there was a question if you had used amchur in the mixture. Yes. I don't think you did you?
No, I've got amchur powder, which I will be adding to the curry base once I put it through. But I have got it here as one of my ingredients, yes. Does that help? You could have added it to the whole mixture itself. That would have been fine as well. Amchur powder is a wonderful ingredient. It's actually dried mango powder, and it brings a really lovely, sweet, sharp kind of depth to the whole flavor. And I use a lot with a lot of my curry dishes that we put together. So it's a nice ingredient to use. So we're almost there. I've just got 3 more to do. This quantity I'm making here makes roughly for about 4 to 5 people, depending on how many people are going to take, 1 or 2. If you felt the quantity was not adequate, you could put in pieces of potato to the whole dish to bulk it up as well, and it goes down very well as well. And that finishes all the stuffing. So I'm very happy with that. I'm just going to discard this water. So I've got quite a bit of the powder left, which I am going to use in the seasoning of the base, so it won't get wasted. And you can save this powder if you've got too much and you don't want to use so much of it. You can just bottle it up and maybe leave it in the fridge or even outside, and it should last at least a week or even probably 10 days. So it's your own mixture of spices that you could use on other dishes if you wanted to. Okay. So now what I'm going to do, I'll take in the pan and I'll put some oil in it, and I want to just roast the aubergines to make sure that they start getting cooked from the outside to the inside. If you don't cook on the top, it might take longer to cook in the curry sauce itself, but there's a slight element that all of it might not get cooked as well. Plus also this way, as I mentioned earlier, it brings a nice smoky taste to the whole thing, and it will bring lovely flavors to the whole dish. So it's nice to have it like this as well. Okay. I'm just going to make the curry base to the whole, for the curry itself. So I'm going to again take another saucepan, put some oil and let it heat up. And once it's heated up enough, now for the curry base, I've got chopped up onions. I've actually got a mixture of red and white onions. Both you could use individually or as a mixture. The red ones obviously have slightly more flavor to them, but either way, that would bring enough to the dish. I've got chopped onions, chopped garlic, chopped ginger. I've got chopped red tomatoes, chopped coriander. Just to make sure the dish is not overpowering hot, I've used a whole chili which has been slit. And to bring that extra dimension to the whole dish, as I mentioned earlier, something that was missed out on the actual list of ingredients is jaggery. It brings a lovely depth to the whole dish. It will neutralize a lot of this flavor that's here, and it will be a lovely dish to have. And then I'm going to use some lime, or lemon you can use. And I will, as I said earlier, I will also use a bit of amchur powder, salt, pepper and a bit of danajiru, as well as the spice mix that we've made, the stuffing mix in the dish. So we're just letting the aubergines do the cooking, let the aubergines cook, and I'm just waiting for this to warm up so I can put my onions on. I think it's almost ready, so I'm just going to drop the onions. I'm going to drop the ginger and the garlic and let it saute in itself. I'll just cover it through and let it do. Now for the avocado broccoli, which is something we'll put together in a minute. Normally when we make broccolis, we will use lukewarm water and we would use oil just to make it nice and crispy on top. What I've done on this occasion is try to use avocados. The more ripe it is, the easier and nicer it is to use. It brings a lovely olive green color to the whole broccoli dish, and I feel it might create a better way of taking oils in your body because avocado is full of lovely ingredients and nutrients which the body can do with. So rather than just using oil on its own, avocado might be a nicer substitute. And if your avocado is ripe enough and the right amount, you might not even need to use any water or oil altogether. So hopefully we won't be needing any of those two ingredients today. To put the chicken together, I've got sugar. Sadly, that's the culprit in chicken, but it's a sweet item. So without the sugar, it's not going to give you the flavor you need. But on the recipe or list of ingredients, I put it down from half to 1 cup. Again, depends on individual taste, on how sweet or unsweet you want in the dish. So I've got about half a cup here, and I'll see if I want to use all of it or not. You can taste it and adjust it according to make sure that you're satisfied with it. And obviously with in chicken, you'd have the saffron. I'm using nutmeg powder, ground LG, and I've finely chopped almonds and pistachio nuts, and I'm going to top it up with because garam is in season, it just lightens up the whole dish and makes it lovely, presentable dish to have. So just coming back to the curry mixture. The onions are almost ready. I'll just give it another minute or so to make sure that they're fine. Keeping an eye on the aubergines, just making sure I'm turning them around. You can see that they're already starting to cook on one side, and I'm just going to turn all of them around to make sure that they're evenly cooked. And putting them back on the flame and just covering it to give it that smoky feel.
We had a question about which oil are you cooking the aubergines in?
So most of our cooking is done in rapeseed oil, which is what we are comfortable to use. At high temperatures, rapeseed oil works well because it doesn't break down, it doesn't have the unwanted fatty saturated oils. So we feel comfortable to use rapeseed oil, but any sort of cooking oil, sunflower oil would be just as good.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, Shailin, while we're waiting for this to cook through?
Not in particular. Lots of comments about it's looking rather delicious. I know you're early in the recipe. But,
yes.
People's taste buds are starting to get wet.
Yeah, it's the spices put together. bring a lovely mixture of flavors and smell. And this roasting process actually makes it really, really nice. And as I said, it brings that smoky flavor to the whole thing. And once the whole dish is put together, it just makes it that much more nicer and interesting to enjoy it. And whilst we are waiting for the onions and garlic and aubergines to do their job, what I am going to do is start putting together the chapati flour. So I've got whole meal flour, which is medium. You can get various ones. You can get medium, or you get brown, or you can get white as well. We feel medium is the right amount. Balance. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to peel the avocado. Just taken the seed out, and I'm going to use a fork to mash it up. This is a very well-ripe avocado, which helps. The more ripe it is, the easier it is to use. You can just mash it all up, and it helps to blend in with the flour a lot easier. It's, this is how I want mine, so it's nice and comfortable and happy, and it will get further mashed when you put it in the wheat flour as well. So coming back to the curry mixture, my onions are ready now. I'm happy with it. So I'm going to add the tomatoes to it. I'm going to add my red chili, the green chili. And to this, I'm going to add my spices, which was the amcha powder, the danajiru, a little bit of salt and sugar. And I'll just let it all cook together for the time being. Just need to keep an eye on, you want the tomatoes to sweat well, so you can just add a tiny bit of water to it, just to help it break up. And the heat setting is kind of between medium and high, so it's fairly high, and you just want to let it sweat, the tomatoes to sweat out and disintegrate and create a smooth paste at the bottom. The aubergines are beginning to get ready, and like Shailen, you mentioned earlier, the smell is, yes, the smell is coming through, and it's lovely and nice. You can see the dish almost coming together already. So I'm just going to still let it cook for a couple more minutes because I want to have that smoky charred flavor to the whole dish. Coming back to the chapati batter, I've got my medium meal flour, and I'm going to add my mashed avocado. And just mix it all together. Slightly messy process, but that's the same if you used just oil and water as well. But you can see the whole thing coming together and working its way. If you feel you can adjust the flour quantity a little bit, or if you feel that it's feeling dry or crumbly, then you can just add a bit of water at this stage. and I'm pretty happy with the way it's going. Just need to make sure you knead it well to make sure that everything is sticking together and combining and doing its job.
Nilesh, we had a question about whether you can make this broccoli with farali flour. I've not heard of that. Do you know what that is?
Sorry, farali flour?
Yeah.
I don't see why you wouldn't be able to. To be honest, personally, I've never thought about it or never tried it. Something I might try it now that it's been brought up. It'd be an interesting find. But I don't see a reason why it wouldn't work, because the flowers are pretty receptive to all these things. And as I said, the avocado is substituting not just the oil content, but also the water content as well. So there should be no reason why it shouldn't work. So I've almost got my flour ready. You can see the batter, and you can see the lovely olive green color. And it's a very, not so soft, but not so hard, just the right consistency. I'm going to just make sure I knead it well and let it rest for a few minutes whilst I go back to the curry. And I'm pretty comfortable and happy here. So I'm just going to let it rest. You can see, and you can see the color. To me, it's a beautiful color to appreciate. Just go back to the curry itself. The tomatoes have disintegrated well, and I'm comfortable with it. To this, I'm just going to add, first I'm going to add half of this mixture. And see how it is. You don't want to overpower the dish, so just half will be fine, but looking at the dish the way it is, I can see it can probably take on the whole quantity, so I'm just going to add all of it in now as well. Okay. And you can see it's becoming a nice thick mixture. If it's too thick, you can probably, I need to just add a tiny bit of water to this to make sure it's a tiny bit more fluid. Now this water I put aside to help me make the rotli nolot, but as you see, I didn't need to use it, and I won't be needing to use it. So the avocado brings kind of double benefits of not having to use water or the oil itself. And I'm going to let this cook. At this point, I'm just going to squeeze in half a lime to bring that sharpness to the dish, because it will be a nice, sharp, fully flavored dish, as well as complementing the jaggery itself as well. And I'm going to add, this is about 1/4 cup of jaggery. You can again adjust the quantity you feel happy with. I think 1/4 is probably the right amount that you need if you're cooking for 4 to 5 people. And I'm just going to add a tiny bit more water and let this all disintegrate. Just visiting back the aubergines, I'm very happy and very comfortable with where I've reached with them. Most of the sides have been well cooked. You can see a bit of charring of the skin itself, and the stuffing has stayed inside, and it will just hold the flavor of the whole thing as well. So lovely. Now I just want to use the bigger pan, so I'm just going to decanter all these aubergines for the time being, because I want to use the bigger pan just to make sure that they all sit in comfortably and the sauces work well as well. And you probably got a bit of the overcooked mixture of the spices. I am not going to take that out because that will bring another depth of flavor to the whole thing. So I'm going to leave it in there. If you're not comfortable, you could just wipe it away, but I'm going to leave it. Just add a tiny bit more of the oil. Obviously, if you're not doing this under time pressure, then you wouldn't need to use 2 pans because I'm trying to make sure that we get it all done in good time. I've just had to use 2 pans, but otherwise it will be just 1 pan, that much less washing up as well, really. And the mixture is coming together very nicely, the base of the gravy. Lovely masala flavor with all the spices that we've used. The coconut fragrant is good as well. You might want to just taste it a little bit at this point, just to make sure that you're comfortable with all the flavors in case you need to add any more salt or sharpness to the whole dish. So I'm just going to do a quick taste. I'm just going to add a tiny bit more salt to it, just to balance the dish, and a bit more, and I'll use the rest of the quarter of a lime. So altogether, I've used half a lime in the dish. And I'm very comfortable where the dish is. I'm going to the coriander, which is half chopped. I've used the stalk as well because they contain a lot of lovely flavors in them. I'm just going to add it in, let it all mix together. I'm going to leave the other half to use it as a garnish on top. And if all the ingredients have now kind of melted down and blended in, like the jaggery and all the other spices, as well as the tomatoes and stuff. So you can see it's full of flavor, full of lovely smell and aroma. And to this, now I'm going to add my aubergines. And the dish is almost ready. I'll put it on a low heat to make sure the rest of the aubergines cook as well. And just to make sure that it's not all drying up or anything, I'm just going to add a tiny bit more water in here as well. Just to make sure that it cooks well, doesn't dry up, and the aubergines get cooked well as well. So it's almost ready, and I'll let it cook on a very low heat whilst we attend to the next bit. So what we are going to do now, we're going to try and make the broccolis using the batter, and I've let it rest for the past 5 minutes or so. I'm very happy with it, where it is. The heat, because the gas, this is an electric hob, you have to just slightly get used to what sort of heat temperature you want to make your broccolis. This one goes from 0 to 6, and I've got it on about 5 or so. So I'm going to let the pan come on. So it's nice and hot as we are getting the broccolis ready. Just want to make sure that my station is nice and tidy. And to make the broccolis, we use a disc, a silicon disc, which actually helps to stop the broccoli moving around. And I've got a trick on here as well. We've got a buckler which has got an inner ring as well, which helps to shape your rockies as well. So if somebody is learning slightly new at making rockies or something, this helps as a good guidance as well. I'll try and do it without. If I don't succeed, I will have to move on to the other one. So I've got some plain wholemeal flour, the same one that I've used to make the rotis, to dip my... Now, this... this is kind of the size of a golf ball. I know my friend PK plays a lot of golf. He will understand the size of this because it's quite important to make sure that you take the right size because you don't want it too big if it's hard to handle, or if it's too small, you're not going to get the right amount or so. So PK, this is for you. So I've got my golf ball. Just what I've done is rolled it round. I want to make it smooth all the way around. And then just press on it. And the importance is to get smooth edges on here. I'm going to dip it in the powder. And the only other thing with making this avocado broccoli, they can be slightly sticky, so you want to make sure that you powder them well all the time. Simple action, you're pulling it towards you on each time, and it's spinning by itself, and that's holding the shape and making sure that it's even, because you don't want it uneven in any way at all. So I'm quite happy with where it is. I'll probably just roll it a tiny bit more. And my pen is nice and hot now, so I'm just going to let it go. Hopefully, it might be slightly difficult to have fulavelli rotli, not because the technique is wrong in any way. It's just using this electric cooker or this tawa makes it slightly not possible to have fulavelli. But otherwise, they will full just as your other rotlis would as well, if you were to do it on a gas cooker, or if you knew how to do it on the electric. Whilst that's cooking, I'm just going to check on my shaft, make sure it's cooking well. And it's simmering through. I've just reduced the temperature a little bit, making sure that all the aubergines get cooked evenly from the inside as well. Just going to let it cook a bit more and then turn it over. Whilst that's happening, I'll just prepare another of the rotis. So the meal is almost coming together. I've got my shaft almost ready. The rotli is fairly easy once you get the hang of it, putting it together, but you can see the lovely olive green color. The taste might not be so much more different as to the traditional rotis, but bearing in mind this has got avocados, they will bring nice color to it and more ingredients. And this rotli generally happens to be slightly more smoother, softer as well than the conventional rotli as well. In fact, it's filling, so that's quite nice. It's puffing up. I'll make one more, and then I'll make the rest later. Any questions at this stage, Shailen Bhai?
Well, we had a comment from Mayubai who said that he's made these using beetroot rather than avocado.
Oh, yes,
and
yes.
He used spelt flour, and he said they came out quite well. So that's an interesting twist.
Oh, lovely. Yeah. I think it's the same Mayubai I know. He has got wonderful ideas. Lovely to thank you to him for sharing it. Avocado broccolis, yes. Lately, you can get avocado tortillas. I think in Marks and Spencers or something. So it's a lovely ingredient to use as well. Again, sorry, beetroot, because it will give you nice, beautiful color as well. But all that nutrition from the beetroot will do wonders. And spelt is actually a nice mixture of flour to use, slightly more healthier, I think. We haven't used it as much, but no, it is a nice, good combination. Okay.
How many rottlis would you be able to make out of the mixture?
So I'm only cooking for 2 today. So I've only used 1 cup, slightly different to what I had written down on the ingredients list. That will make about 7 or so, or 7 to 10. This will probably make, it's helped me make 5, and 2 cups will probably help me make 10 to 12 or so, depending on how variation you have and the sizes of your, what they say, the goina, or the bowls before you start rolling them out. So this will make me 5. So I'm quite happy with my rotli. You can see a lovely color, nice. If you want to butter it on top, you can do. I'm not, we don't butter ours or put ghee on it, so I will not be doing anything to it. But it's lovely, soft. You can see it, nice and lovely to eat, just as they're made, nice and soft. Okay. So whilst the rotli is getting ready, I've got 2 of the rotlis, as I said, that I was going to prepare. This one is actually rising. I wonder if you can see. So you can get full aveli on here as well. And they just make it that much more softer and nicer, lovelier to enjoy. I'm just going to check on my shop to make sure that it's cooking all okay. Just give it another couple of minutes or so before I turn it off, and it will just cook in its own heat and steam as well, whilst the lid is on and the cooker has been turned off. So this rotli is also ready, but actually the pan is actually nice and hot now. So this rotli is ready as well. So I'm going to just leave it here, turn this off, and try and put together the chicken, the last part in our dish today. So as I mentioned earlier, traditionally you can make, people make chicken out of normal yogurt. And I remember the olden days when my mum used to tie the normal yogurt overnight to drain out the water and thicken up the yogurt. So this is exactly what I've done on this occasion. I've done it overnight, but you could have done it in the morning and it will be ready for you to use by later part of the afternoon. So I just wanted to show the technique, because a lot of times people are not sure how to tie it and stuff. I've just used a long jug, used a wooden spoon, and this is a muslin cloth. I've already drained water out earlier in the day. You can see there's plenty of water still that's come through. So this will be nice, thick and creamy, just the way we want it.
Just a question from our friend Harry. He's asking, where did you get the silicone ring and the butler from?
I think we got ours from Pop-Ups in Wembley. But you can get them, I think most shops these days, like Wilko and places, because silicone plates are used quite a lot as a heat-resistant base rather than the traditional different ways. and you don't have to use the silicone disc. I remember my mum using in the early days when I was growing up, just a piece of cloth, anything that will just stop it moving around and hold it in position also. Okay. So I've got my yogurt. You can see it's nice, thick. There's hardly any water in it. Lovely, creamy texture. To this, I'm going to add, as I said, you can vary the quantity of sugar you're going to add to it. I've got about half a cup here. I'm going to add half of that first, and then mix it all, and just make sure I taste it to make sure I'm not making it too sweet or overpowering it. And I'll add more if I feel that the taste hasn't quite captured. Just before I do that, I'm just going to check that I turn off the cooker on the curry, because it's almost ready now, and it will just be another few minutes whilst it's cooking in its own heat. And I'm not going to add any more sugar because it's at a lovely stage now when it's not over sweet and it's just the right sweetness that you need. Shailin, I know you're a vegan, and do you find you get enough choices in the Indian mithais and stuff these days? Or how do you come about not missing out on these things?
Oh, you put me on the spot there. Yeah, I feel like I do miss out sometimes, but during Diwali, we did try to make a few different treats. And so I was quite pleased with some of the things we managed to make, like Ferrero Rocher and a few other items. So I think the items are out there and there's more and more choice coming along. So I'm not missing out too much.
No, excellent. Yeah, as I said, it's always nice to experiment, and it's very easy to substitute some of the dairy ingredients used. Instead of butter, you might want to use plant-based margarine or something. So the options are available these days, and people have experimented in lots of lovely ways, and it's nice to see. And it's nice that everybody can enjoy what they always used to enjoy, but in a different format. So I've got the strained soya yogurt in here. I added about a quarter cup of sugar, and I've got about a teaspoon of nutmeg, although I'm not going to add all of it because, again, I don't want to overpower it. So I'm using about half of it. And you can smell the nutmeg going through already. Nutmeg has got lovely smell to it, lovely ingredient. And to this, I'm also going to add elchi. Now, I like mine flavored well and smell well, so I'm going to add most of this elchi. I'm going to just leave a tiny bit on top, just so I can use it as garnish. So the consistency is still holding, and you want to just fold it through to make sure that it's all coming together. And finally, I'm going to use saffron. I've got just strands of saffron here. I'm going to add a tiny bit of warm water. You could have used soya milk or any plant-based milk. What you want to do is once you put it in water or anything, that's when it starts to bring out its flavor, smell, and color as well. Ideally, probably good to do it a few minutes before, just to make sure that it starts to dissolve in the water nice and well. So I've just used a tiny bit of water. You don't want to use too much, otherwise it will just make your whole dish a bit more fluidy as well. So this is where I've got to. I haven't added the saffron to it yet.
there was a question if you can use jaggery instead of sugar.
Jaggery has got a depth of flavor, and I'm not quite sure it will go down very well with this. And jaggery can overpower the whole thing, and you don't want to do that. So I'm not quite sure if jaggery would be the right thing to use. I know a lot of people use algal syrup or algal sugar. I've never used it, but it's something worth trying, which is supposed to be slightly more healthier or less as damaging as just normal sugar or something. But I'm not quite sure of its background taste, but it's worth trying it. But I don't think jaggery would be the best thing, really. So I'm going to add half of my mixture now. You can smell all the things together. It's brought out the lovely flavors to it as well. And the aroma is just amazing, lovely. And I'm going to add the rest of it on top. Trying to squeeze out every last capsule. And to this, I'm going to just sprinkle a bit of the nutmeg on top. More of a garnish and extra smell and flavor as well. And some of the leftover algae that I had left over. And this is the very finely chopped almonds and pistachio nuts. Pistachio nuts have got a lovely color of their own and flavor as well. So I've done about 5 almonds and about 5 pistachio. In this case, I haven't had to use all of it, but you can certainly add it on. And I've got pomegranates, because pomegranates is in season at the moment. And it just brings the whole dish together. So I'm going to serve my dish. And just sprinkle my pomegranates on top and the last bits of the nuts and stuff. So there we go. Just to put the whole dish together, I'm going to have my broccolis. We've got roasted peppers, and I'm going to add my sharp to it. Now, this is the end result of the masala aubergine. All the aubergines are well cooked. You might want to just check by putting a knife through, making sure that it's well cooked. The gravy is nice and thick and full of flavor. And to finish off the dish, I'm just going to add a bit of salad. And ready to have my Indian feast. Some salad, some chicken garnished with pomegranates. I've got some butter, which is an additional crunch to the whole dish, my avocado broccolis, and the masala aubergine, stuffed aubergines as well. What I can do is just add more garnish of the aubergines on top, and it just sparkles up the whole dish. I hope you can see it. We can certainly smell the flavors here and the lovely aroma it's bringing. I think we're ready to eat. Hope you guys do try it. A lot of it is repetition of stuff that you might be doing at home. I'm hoping that there might have been a couple of tips, extra points that you might have picked up whilst we put all this together. Thank you very much. Thank you all for watching. Any more questions, Salim Bhai?
No specific questions, Nilesh Bhai, just lots of compliments on your presentation.
Thank you.
Your presentation, as always. It's always a pleasure to watch and learn from you. So thank you so much for giving up a lot of your time, getting the presentation ready, all the work you do in advance. is really appreciated. So thank you from all our viewers for everything you do for us. Some people are saying they're going to be coming over to your house shortly, so just a warning in advance. And that's all, I think. So thank you to Bina, who's there helping in the background, and we hope to see you again very soon.
Thank you very much, and thank you to you and the team at Oshwal and Bina who supported me here, and more importantly, all the viewers who've taken time out to watch us, and hopefully go away and put something together or try something of their own. Thank you again. Goodbye.